Good evening, Aurora, and thank you for tuning in tonight for a very special presentation that we have for you. Tonight is a virtual open house for the Wolf's Crossing sub-area plan. We ask that you take a seat, listen to the presentation, and post any questions that you may have right in the Facebook comments, and we'll attempt to answer as many of those questions as we can before the presentation concludes this evening. The Wolf's Crossing sub-area is in Ward 9, and we are honored to have with us this evening to begin the presentation, the Alderman of Ward 9. Please welcome Alderman Edward Bugg.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. I just want to welcome everyone to this virtual open house. Of course, we are living in very different times right now, so we're glad you can join us on social media. We have a full panel this evening that will present on this really great plan that has been put together. First of all, we have Tracy Vasek. She is the senior planner for the city of Aurora. We also have Ed Sieben. Ed is the director of zoning and the administrator. Ken Schroth is with us this evening, director of public works and city engineer. Wave there, Ken. All right. And then we have the illustrious Dave Debo, director of development, and Trevor Dick, Director of Development, Strategy, and Facilitation. Mr. Dick is going to start us off, give us the beginning part of the presentation, and then we'll go through to the other presenters. So, Mr. Dick, please.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Alderman. Let me load the presentation. All right, thank you very much. My name is Trevor Dick, Director of Development Strategy and Facilitation, as Alderman Bugg said. I'm very happy this evening to present to you a draft plan for one of the largest undeveloped areas within the city, located south of Wolf's Crossing Road and north of 111th Street, all within the 9th Ward. The area is currently mostly used as a combination of a sod farm and former landfill and has long been planned to be mostly industrial. We have asked ourselves for several years, is industry the best use? And if not, what should the best use be? To help answer those questions, the city has drafted this comprehensive plan update that we've called the Wolf's Crossing sub-area plan. Tonight, we'll be giving a brief presentation summarizing the draft plan recommendations. And at the end, we would like to have time for questions and answers. Our goal this evening is to conclude by 7 p.m. because I know many of us on this call are wishing to attend the Oswego School Board meeting that begins at 7:30. Our presentation will consist of the following. First, we'll introduce the project by identifying the area we're focused on. We will discuss what a comprehensive plan is, and almost as important, what a comprehensive plan is not, and then why an update to the plan is being recommended. Next, we'll discuss the planning process and what the next steps will be. We'll review the existing conditions for land use, transportation and circulation, parks and open space, schools and parks, market and demographics. Then we'll move into a summary of the actual draft recommendations and plans. The final section of the plan includes an implementation chapter that helps identify potential strategies to help bring the plans to fruition. And lastly, we'll end the presentation by identifying next steps and how you as the public can continue to participate in the process. This slide here is the introduction showing the sub-area plan that we're focused on. The area is approximately 500 acres and it's located in the southern part of the city. It includes the vacant and or undeveloped land within the following boundary. 111th Street to the south, and south of this line is Plainfield. US Route 30 to the west. West of that is Oswego, Wolf's Crossing Road to the north, and lastly, the CN rail line to the east, and east of that is the city of Naperville. You can see just by that description alone, this really is as far south as the city of Aurora can go. I wanted to talk about what is a comprehensive plan. In order to relook at the sub-area and to change the long-range vision from industrial to other uses, we require a comprehensive plan update. A comprehensive plan is a long-range planning document that is designed for 15 to 20 years, and it's a vision and roadmap that guides future growth and redevelopment. A comprehensive plan is not set in stone. It can change at any time. And it's important to note that this plan is not an actual development proposal, and it is not a zoning change. The plan guides decisions on where new housing can go, how it can improve transportation, how we can promote economic development, and where to make capital improvements. Over the last year, developer interest has picked up throughout the entire city, and especially in Ward 9, where there's strong demand for single-family housing. We initiated the plan update for two primary reasons. First, because of the strong residential market, and second, because of developer interest. It's important to note that at this time, although no formal application has been submitted to the city, we are very much aware that developers are interested in developing this area for very similar uses as what we're recommending. The first step in our planning process was to understand existing conditions. What are the current uses? What is the market, the demographics, community facilities? Where are the roads and public utilities? And what are the surrounding municipalities doing? And in a few minutes, Tracy Vasek is going to highlight some of those existing conditions. Understanding the existing conditions helps us establish a foundation by which to build our future recommendations. The next step was to create a vision and guiding principles for the area. I'd like to mention here that there's a fine line between visioning and hallucinating. We can all dream big for what this area can be, but it's very important to keep in mind market and demographic realities. The third step was to create future plans and recommendations, and they won't happen overnight. Like I said, this plan could last 15 to 20 years, but they will provide us with a direction to help bring us to fruition. As Clayton and Alderman Buggs said at the beginning, in a normal world, this meeting would typically be held in person at a community space, probably in the lobby at Crossroads Church. But because of COVID, we've had to pivot. And so doing, we've conducting this virtual public workshop. Your input tonight and through emails to the city at COA planning at aurora-il.org will help us make changes and finalize the plan's recommendations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy Vasek, our senior planner, who is going to describe the existing conditions. Tracy?
Great, thank you. All right, so the existing comp plan that is right now on the books was done in 2002 when the city did update this area. It is identified as mainly industrial, which is the purple, and then identified as medium density residential, which is that orange color, commercial, which is the red color, and public uses, which is kind of that blue color. The green color is open space. However, the industrial vision really never came to fruition, and the property has sat undeveloped since the 2002. The next slide. All right, so the first step when creating a long-range plan and recommendations for future land uses is we really need to understand the existing conditions of the area. The one thing that the 5 things that we are going to touch on, or 6, I guess, is the market demand. Over the last several years in the city of Aurora, especially on the east side, there has been and continue to be interest in residential development. Specifically in Ward 9, there is a very attractive single-family detached home market. The plan also talks about the demographics of the sub-area. I'm not going to go through all of the demographics, but I just wanted to highlight that the population of this area is projected to increase, the average income is expected to rise, and the population is aging. We also take a look at the areas that has changed, or what has changed since the last update. As for Aurora, the two big developments that have impacted the future land use in the study area is the construction of the Wolf's Crossing Elementary and Benarsic Junior High School, and the construction of the Crossroad Community Church and recreational campus. These uses are believed to improve the character of the area for residential development, as they're near the residents they serve. However, these uses may actually deter industrial development. We also are looking at the neighboring communities and what they have been doing. Just east across the CN rail line the city of Naperville changed their long-range plan from industrial to residential, and now it's been developed with large single-family houses. Plainfield, just to the south of this area across from 111th Street. The comprehensive plan for Plainfield was last updated in 2013. It's designated this area as a combination of commercial, open space, industrial, and medium density residential. I would note that this is currently not incorporated into the village, and it did appear that it was not closely studied in the 2013 comprehensive plan update. On the west side of Route 30 in Oswego, Oswego did update their comprehensive plan in 2015. The village did delineate the extension of the Wicked Trail and designated a commercial area along Route 30, and the remaining of the area is designated as residential purposes. The next thing that we did look at is why is there a lack of industrial interest? This area was rezoned in 2002, and since then there has been little to no interest from developers for industrial uses. According to real estate brokers and industrial businesses and developers, the sub-area is too far from the interstates, which is a key factor for industrial businesses. This is evident with the Arrowhead Industrial Park, which is located in the northeast corner of this area, which has been in existence for decades and still has some vacancies. In addition, the more that the surrounding area develops as non-residential uses, the potential to attract industrial uses decreases. The next thing that we looked at was the increasing size of industrial buildings. The plan also talks about the changing trends of industrial development. Instead of the small industrial developments such as the Arrowhead Industrial Park located again at that northeast corner of this area, the market has changed and now is focusing on larger building footprints that are mostly located adjacent to transportation nodes like the interstate, highways, or airports. The next thing that we looked at was the lack of utilities. Because the majority of the area is not developed, there has been few utilities within the sub-area. Non-industrial uses in this area would require less significant utilities. For example, a water tower would be required for industrial uses, but not required for non-industrial uses. Again, a significant deterrence to industrial development in the area as the cost of constructing utilities would be more. Lastly, staff keeps in mind the other taxing bodies, especially the school and the park district when planning the future land uses. In this case, we know that Oswego School District has been experiencing budgeting and financial issues. To raise the revenue, the school district has desired more retail and businesses in this district. Therefore, the future land use should include the appropriate acreage for retail and businesses. In addition, the city land cash dedication ordinance includes provisions that the developer pay an initial impact fee to help assist with the cost of the new students. There is also a separate school impact fee that the city has also. The city has been working with the Fox Valley Park District in this area as it is in their jurisdiction. The area is mentioned in their master plan, but it should be noted that it indicates a build-out population of 75 residents in this area based on the previous townhouse development. The city continues and will continue to coordinate with the school district and the park district throughout the planning process. Trevor, can you go to the next slide? I just want to kind of go over some of these maps that we do have in our plan. This is the existing land use. The majority of the area is currently a sod farm and open space. So the next slide. The majority of the area is zone PDD, Planned Development District, with mainly industrial and some commercial uses. And then the existing park and open space and community facilities. The area in blue is, and it's kind of a little hard to see, but up on the northwest corner, yep, thank you, is the Wolf's Crossing Elementary School and Benarsic Junior High. Just north of that is the Crossroad Community Church and Recreational Campus. The areas highlighted in light green are parks, and then the areas kind of in that medium green are private recreational uses. And then the next slide. This is the existing transportation system. The area is bounded by Wolf's Crossing on the north, Route 30 on the west side, 111th on the south side, and the CN line on the east side. Eola Road actually intersects this area, and we recently realigned this intersection to Route 30, so it is at a 90-degree angle. I know from experience, because I live out here, how when it was lined straight down with Heggs, there was a lot of accidents. So this was a great improvement. The city did pursue grants for that realignment, and it now lines up with a long-range county project called the Wicked Trail, which will eventually extend to I-88. So that's good news. So that's kind of the breakdown of the existing conditions. I'll turn it back over to Trevor Dick so he can go into the vision and recommendations.
Great.
Else.
Thank you very much, Tracy. I took this picture of the area in the summertime, and it's nice to see so much greenery. I like this photo because it actually shows you what's there right now, which is a lot of agricultural areas and open space. One thing I think we should note, this photo shows where the floodways are, and you'll see in a couple of slides here, one of the goals is to maintain these floodways, to use them as hiking or walking and biking trails, as well as parks and open space. I wanted to talk about the vision. This is the guiding principles that we created to reflect the ideal future for the sub-area. It also provides a framework for the plan concepts and implementation strategies. I'm not going to read this entire vision statement, but I'd like to call to your attention just a few key words. Some key words are attractive neighborhood with housing options, especially for senior housing, retail and shopping opportunities, connectivity for vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians, and parks and open space throughout. So building upon that vision, we've created the next several slides that highlight the recommendations. The first is future land use. And I'll walk through each of these bullet points. The first is low density residential. That's shown in yellow. If you remember from Tracy's earlier slide of what the current comprehensive plan is, pretty much everything in yellow is purple, which would have been industrial. So this plan recommends a mixture of low density residential, with the majority of it being 5 dwelling units per acre or less. And senior housing is definitely recommended as a component of any future residential in this area. We think that it provides a potential benefit to the school district, as well as having minimal students. The next color is in red, and that is for commercial, shopping, dining, and office areas. These areas are very similar to what the current comprehensive plan shows, but it's called a nodal development, where instead of just spreading commercial development all the way down Route 30, that used to be actually the pattern for a lot of these arterials in the 70s and 80s, with the changing commercial market, we still think there is a very much demand for future commercial in this area, but it needs to be centered. It needs to be in a node, in an area. So for example, this area here is over 30 acres. In a 30-acre commercial development such as this, you could get some pretty large shopping or retail areas, such as a grocery store. Down here at 111th Street, it's actually an area of almost 8 or 9 acres where you could get another strip center or a gas station or other restaurants. In blue is the existing schools. So we're maintaining those areas. And then in the green is the preservation and open space areas. We've identified here the floodplain areas, these fingers running through the residential areas, and then this is the former landfill site. We continue to work with the Park District on all developments in the city, and that will be the same in this location as well. So when future developments come through this area, the Park District will work with the developer to figure out where neighborhood parks should go, how many should be located, their size, and what the future amenities or elements on those parks should be. The last thing I wanted to point out is the existing Arrowhead industrial area. And as Tracy said, we maintain that area, although if you drive through that area, there's still vacant buildings, vacant sites, and that was constructed in the 80s, a further indication that there really is not an industrial demand. In terms of future open space, this map here shows in green circles where potential Park District parks could go in this area. Those are located based upon what the Park District calls their half-mile walking distance. Those are illustrated with these dashed circular lines here radiating out from these neighborhood parks. The reason that they do that is the idea is that no matter where you live, if you have a park within a half mile of your house, you are able to walk to that area. I also wanted to point out once again that any floodplain, open space or detention, such as these areas here, would be fantastic for future walking or biking trails. In terms of future transportation, we're very much aware that no matter what we do in this area, we want to make sure that traffic is managed. For many years, in fact, for decades, the city, as well as the surrounding areas, have planned for future development in this area. And in fact, if you think about what this area could be, if it's 500 acres of industrial, think about the increased traffic from that type of development, especially truck traffic. So some other things that we're trying to do to mitigate and make sure this is a well-connected area for transportation is we're showing on this map the existing signals. These are the solid circles. And then we've identified two potential future signals. One here off of the new extension of Eola Road, which would provide access into the commercial area and the residential. And then up here at Carl's Road, that could be another way for an intersection, or another area, I should say, for an signalized intersection. We've also showed where future road access points could be into the development. We've worked very closely as well with our fire department to make sure that they have appropriate access and egress in and out of the area. If you think of it as this way too, the more access and egress points into an area, the less traffic there'll be on one particular road. So we really think that the more access and egress points would be fantastic. We also want to make sure that we design any interior road to discourage cut-through traffic, and especially traffic at a high rate of speed. Bike trails, the solid red line are the existing bike trails, and there's a lot of bike trails in this area, especially just north of Wolf's Crossing. A lot of that connects to regional bike trails. We want to make sure that any development here has safe connectivity to those trails. A couple of capital improvements that I wanted to point is that Eola Road has been realigned, as Tracy said, for future development. But any future development that comes into this area, the developer will need to widen Eola to match the cross-section above, which is a 5-lane cross-section. So future improvements will require the developer to widen that road. Future widenings will also have to happen at 111th Street. And that would also be something that would be up to the developer requirements. I wanted to point out the future Wickaduke Trail, and that will extend all the way down to I-80. And that's been a regional plan for the Will County has been implementing for decades. And that will create one continuous connection, Wickaduke Parkway in the Eola all the way up to connect both interstates, the north and south. And then the last one is future Wolf's Crossing improvements, especially at this intersection and the west in Oswego. The village of Oswego has been working very hard and has a great plan for the future widening of Wolf's Crossing. There's a lot of very cool ideas in place, potential roundabouts and widening. That will really help with the traffic flow through this area as well. The last couple slides here deal with implementation. If you look in the plan, we provide some preliminary steps on how we can implement the plans, both in the short term, within the next year or two, as well as in the longer term, which could be over 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The longer term strategies will require coordinating with property owners, adjacent communities and other taxing districts to not only plan to make sure that everything moves smoothly, but to secure funding. Here's a list of some of the 7 implementation strategies that we've identified. You can see here some of the partners we've identified are working with Fox Metro, the Oswego, Plainfield, Naperville, the continue to work with the Aurora's Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee to make sure there's great connectivity, and to make sure that we identify a great image and identity plan for this area. This could really be an excellent gateway into the city of Aurora. For many people coming from the south or the west, this might be the first area that they drive into. If we do this right, if it's high quality, great architecture, great landscaping, we should do a gateway sign, welcome to Aurora. And any development in here we should be proud of and make sure that it really raises the bar for the city of Aurora. The next steps, we're going to continue to finalize this plan. Any input we receive from you through that email address that's going to be on the last slide here, any input tonight, any emails that we receive or public input that we receive at the formal hearing of the Plan Commission, we're going to make sure it gets incorporated into the plan and helps us finalize any recommendations. Also, after the public hearing, a recommendation is going to be made to City Council where there'll be discussion and ultimate approval. So we're still several months away from potential adoption of the plan. With that, that concludes our formal presentation. We're very happy to answer any questions that you have. We have a lot of staff from a lot of different departments on this to help us. And as I mentioned, if you have any comments or questions, please send them to this email address, and we'd be more than happy to hear from you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trevor and Tracy. Amazing job. We're going to look into a few of the questions that we have live on the Facebook feed. Not so much the comments. We certainly, of course, leave those up for viewing, but we're encouraging the community to ask questions. First question, what is the school district's role, or what has the school district's role been in this process?
Okay, great question. I'll take a
stop
stab at that.
Stop the screen share really quickly so we can see. There we go.
Sorry about that.
No problem. There we go.
Okay.
School district's role in the process.
Sure, I'll maybe jump in really quick if anybody else wants to add, but with any development in the city, we make sure that we work with our taxing districts, our partners, if you will. The city of Aurora actually includes 5 school districts. We have quarterly meetings where we meet with staff from each of the school districts. We update them on potential projects and plans such as this, economic development initiatives. We've also been working with staff one-on-one about future plans in this area. And we want to make sure that it's a win-win. We want to make sure that the school district supports whatever happens, not just this plan, but any actual developments that happen in the future. Because for us, that really improves our quality of life if all the taxing districts are on board. And that also makes us know that it's a great product.
Okay. Question in that same vein, would further residential development be more of a burden than a help to 308?
Great question. So we've talked a lot about that. That's why the plan recommends a mix of housing types and styles, and especially senior housing. We think senior housing, there's a great demand for it. We've got a lot of people that are interested in developing senior housing. And we as staff think that that would just be a tremendous benefit if you can get the increased property taxes from residential high-end senior housing with a minimal number of students generated. We think that would be ideal. And one thing that really, and Tracy mentioned this, that the school district has really wanted us to make sure we include is that commercial component. So that almost 35, 40 acres of commercial is really going to be a benefit to them as well. And so we're trying to really balance that. Like I said, we want to make sure the school district is on board with whatever is proposed.
And just to note, if you guys do turn into the school district, Pulte is presenting a idea for this area. They have not formally submitted to the city, but I kind of know that since most of you probably are going to be looking at the school district or continuing on to the school district board meeting later on tonight, I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Speaking of commercial development, are there any incentives or incentive packages that the city has to attract businesses for the area?
Yes, we have a great number of tools in economic development that we use in the city of Aurora. We use it throughout the city. We don't have anything in place at this time or have incentives lined up with anyone for this area, but there's a number of different incentives that we could use, including TIF districts. We've used facade improvement grants in the downtown. There's just a number of different projects. We've got an economic development department, and David Debo's on the call here, our director. We are definitely well-versed in those tools. We use them sparingly. We want to make sure we use them in the right way and at a limited basis. But when we need to use them, when there is a gap, when we need to help fill that gap to get a development that's high quality that we want in the city, we are definitely able to use those.
Wonderful. You mentioned a lot of the area is a sod farm. Is that similar to wetlands, and won't that be more difficult to develop on?
Tracy, do you want to take a shot? I don't want to answer everything with my.
Yeah, no, the sod farm is just it's a type of farming. There is actually some floodplain in this area, and they will have to accommodate any developer that comes in will have to accommodate for that floodplain. Obviously, there will be detention that will be needed. So this area is well, it can be developed definitely.
Okay. You mentioned the phrase high quality development. How does the city define that?
Well, that's a great question. That means a lot of things to a lot of different people. I'll tell you what I think for high quality development. It's development that's designed well, that has great architectural features, that's different, that helps create a special place. So, for example, when you drive through a lot of communities, when you go into one community and another community, you may not know where you are. It may look like just one giant place. So with high quality, that makes sure that architectural design is unique to the area. We want to make sure it's good building materials. The city has a great building code in place where, and Ed may be able to talk about this more, we require a certain amount of brick, for example, on certain types of buildings. So that's something that we make sure we get the right product that we want. And also the site plan and layout. We work with a lot of our different departments, including public works and transportation, to make sure they're well designed. There's great flow in between them, connectivity. I mean, I could go on and on, but.
And amenities.
Oh yeah.
Amenities, perks and stuff.
And to follow up with what Trevor just said, we have a development services team process at the city where we look at all initial development that comes into the city with multiple staff departments. And we do look at quality of life, those kind of things. And then once we get to the zoning stage, we have a lot of tools in place working with the developer to make sure we get certain minimum standards with lot sizes, square footage of homes, elevation of homes, that kind of thing. So, and that eventually is then presented up to the city council.
Wonderful. Because this area is unique and it's adjacent to other municipalities, Naperville, Oswego, is there any collaboration or conversation with those municipalities?
So we've continued, especially from a transportation point of view. I know Ken and his group have continued to talk to Oswego about the future planning of that Wikiduke Parkway. I know we continue to talk to Mr. DeSanto at Oswego about their current plans for Oswego. We're very much in touch with all of our adjacent neighbors. In fact, we just updated our boundary agreements with the communities in this area. And so the planning of this area was on everybody's mind at the staff level and was adopted by all the village boards and the council. So we continue to work with each other. We definitely are not afraid to pick up the phone and make sure we continue to collaborate together. But yes, we will definitely, if any plans move forward, continue to work with them. I also should mention too, another kind of glue to this whole project is the Fox Metro, which would be the sanitary water district that encompasses this whole area and outside of it. So it really is a conduit as well to all of the other communities and their planning for this area as well.
Wonderful. You all are getting a number of compliments. Just thanking you for such a detailed presentation, just for having this public discourse as well. Speaking of interaction and collaboration, the Beacon News highlighted a couple other sub-area plans like Farnsworth Avenue and Route 59. What's that process like in the planning and with the interaction of different sub-area plans for the overall comprehensive plan?
Tracy, do you want to talk about the Route 59 plan?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all works as one document. So we do sub plans and revise, you know, all the areas to kind of create one document. So the Route 59 plan we just updated. I guess it's been a couple years now, but that was for the Fox Valley Mall. And then all the way down to, I believe, Montgomery Road, and then all the way up to the train station. So that plan obviously interacts with all of the other comp plans that we have on our books to kind of create one big comprehensive plan for the city.
Wonderful. Fox Metro says, thanks for the shout out. They're watching. We have a number of realtors watching as well, grabbing that information. Dave Ricker, Deanna Schmuttle, some of the names that we watch in our community. On that note, conceptually, Trevor, Tracy, Ed, if you had to conceptually say what this subdivision, your ideal subdivision would look like, how does it compare? Is it like a hometown? Is it like an Orchard Valley? Is it like a Verona Ridge, a mixture of all of the three? Conceptually, what would that look like?
Let's have Ed take a shot first. Tracy, what do you think?
Wow, that was a good one. We're obviously looking at a high quality development, as we said before. The city learns things through the decades. We take some of the good features that we've learned in the past decades, and we build on that. So that is the goal here. You know, we are looking at a little bit of a mix of lot sizes here. We are looking at hopefully a pretty nice senior component with maybe an age restricted type of product here. So there's quite a variety of homes here that will serve different markets. So, you know, the city has different types of homes. You mentioned Verona Ridge is on the far west side, some estate type homes. We didn't have a lot of that before. So we try to get a diversity of housing because we do have a very diverse population in Aurora, and we want to maintain that.
Wonderful. Alderman Bug, you're getting a number of shout outs from your constituents saying, great job. You know, we know how close Ward 9 is. You guys always rocking out there. Let's talk traffic. A number of questions on traffic. Since traffic is already congested on Route 30 and there's no east exit access, how will Wolf's Crossing Road be impacted with additional development?
Okay, I'll take a shot at this first. So it's interesting down here. There's a lot of jurisdictions in place in terms of the roadway design. So Route 30, of course, is a state route. We worked with Oswego on their Wolf's Crossing plans to the west. Ours is the Wolf's Crossing to the east. And then we've got 111th Street as well. As development happens in this area, there's a couple things I wanted to point out. We're going to make sure that developers are required to widen those key roads, not only put in new roads interior and have a lot of connectivity points, but it'll be their role to widen those roads. They'll also have to do traffic counts. We'll make sure that that's something that is part of any type of approval. When we get to the council, Alderman Bug knows that's something that we look at in the whole big picture as how is that going to impact traffic as well as the entire community. So we are definitely going to be doing our best, working together with all our other partner agencies and internally to make sure that traffic is either minimized or, boy, wouldn't it be great to somehow improve traffic flow. When I close my eyes and picture the widened roads and especially the improvement on the Oswego side of Wolf Crossing when I take my kids to the high school at Oswego East, wouldn't it be great if the traffic flow is moving through that intersection at a great efficient speed. That's our goal. We don't want to hamper it. I know the idea with future development can or is thought to lead to traffic impact, but there's a lot of things that go into that. It's land use, it's time of traffic flow, it's commuters, it could be what type of business. So there's a lot of things that go in it. We're going to make sure we continue to try and minimize any potential traffic.
Great. Segue right into the next question on ideal traffic. Since we all know that semis are using Eola Road as a shortcut to get to Route 30, is there anywhere in the plan that Eola Road can be restricted to car traffic only, no semis?
I'm going to ask Ken to add some
Yeah,
thoughts.
actually, so Eola Road is designated as a major arterial in the city. So as Tracy stated before, we secured a $1.4 million grant to realign Heggs Road into the current alignment and take a lot of that pressure off of the corner of Wolves Crossing and 30. So hopefully we're seeing a lot more improvements with that configuration. And then, as Trevor stated, additional lanes will be added as this area is developed. So, and on top of that, the major intent of all the communities from I-80 to I-88 was to have that connectivity, and we're so close to it now too. If you picture where Trevor had on the map, where we connected Eola Road to Route 30, when Oswego develops that parcel, the only piece missing right now from I-80 to I-88 is that piece from Route 30 to 111th. And after that, connectivity is made, and then build out like we're doing, where the widening occurs as development occurs, will then happen. So that's been the intent. That's part of the master plan for Eola Road for decades.
Right. They want to know what your thoughts are on another drive-in theater.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? Yeah, I mean, when it comes to those commercial areas, we will listen to anybody. I shouldn't say it like so openly, but we're open to any ideas, especially if there's a demand, if there's a market, and if somebody's interested in financing and constructing that. I do think that, especially what we just went through, there is demand for more outdoor activities such as that. And wouldn't that have been great during quarantine if we could all gone down there and seen a movie?
For new development, is there a requirement for a certain level of walkability?
Yes, and I guess I'll let others speak more to this, but I guess the walkability in terms of especially the installation of sidewalks and bike trails is something that we put into all of the roads. And especially if you look in this area, one side has always got a sidewalk, one's always got a bike trail, and we're going to continue that in this area, right, Ken?
Correct. That'll be part of the, we designed Eola Road so that we could keep Eola Road open as developers widen it. So the idea here is that as the development occurs on either side of Eola, they saw cut the existing shoulder, they build out the lane, another lane, put in the curb, then there's a grassy area, and then there's a bike path or a sidewalk. So that's when you're going to start to see that connectivity from Route 30 all the way up to Wolves Crossing. And then the same thing on Wolves Crossing too, the installation of additional sidewalk on the south side.
And it's maybe answering that question in terms of bike paths. Steve said none of the bike trails north of Wolves Crossing connect to regional trails without having at some point to ride on a paved road. Is there part of the plan to connect the trails safely to all the others in the area as you redevelop or develop this sub area?
Yeah, we've been trying to do a good job of making that connectivity, especially to the north. So for instance, we're chasing grants right now for Montgomery Road. We've been working slowly from Eola Road, and we're talking $1 million plus of work going from Eola Road to Route 59. The next grant we secured will get us that last section of Route 59. And I know Alderman Bugg has been using a significant portion of his allowable award funds each year to make connectivity of sidewalks and bike paths wherever the money is available, and the other key, right of ways available. So whenever Alderman Bugg or the Bike Ped Committee identifies an area where we have funding and the property to construct, we go ahead and do that. So we're going to keep making headway on that as well.
Question for the Fox Valley Park District. They've publicly talked about plans for water parks and additional recreation like that throughout the city. Would this be an ideal place for a water park or pool?
So I think we definitely partner and work with the Park District. We would, I think, leave that up to the Fox Valley Park District to determine if that's the best use and the best location for something like that. We do know from our discussions with staff that if a residential neighborhood went in, a neighborhood park would be needed, as I mentioned, within that half-mile walking distance. What they put on a neighborhood park, I don't think that fits with their vision of a neighborhood park. That would be more of a community park or larger sports complex. But we would definitely work with them to support whatever they wanted that was something that would fit in this area.
Okay. We have 2 final questions here. What is the negative? What's the downside of just leaving this undeveloped? Just leave it as green space, have a nice quiet area. And the long-term vision for Aurora, why can't that just stay as is?
Okay, I'll take a first shot at it and then help me out if I miss anything. But so the long range plans for the city, if you look at that comprehensive plan that was done in the 80s, even their plans earlier than that, has shown this area as industrial. It's within our city planning jurisdiction. Right now, especially in these financial times, I hate to go right to money, but I'll just be honest, there is a need for economic development. And right now, the current taxes for that 500 acres is less than $10,000 to all taxing districts. The city gets maybe $5,100 a year from that. Think about what would happen if any type of development happens in this area and what that potential property tax revenue could do for the city, as well as especially our school district. And so believe me, I love open space. One thing that when I worked at park districts and forest preserves is if there's a strong need to preserve open space, typically there has to be some lack of land acquisition. So if an agency wanted to purchase it, that would be something, of course, that would be up to the landowner. But I think that would be my take on it. Does anybody else want to weigh in? Oh, you're on mute, David.
That's a great point, Trevor. I think the zoning is key here too, though, because if it was open space, and then we were saying, well, can it stay open space? But if you look at the alternative in terms of industrial use, and today industrial use very often means a lot of truck traffic, because most of the industrial use today are distribution centers. So when you really look at just leaving, developers and owners have rights, property rights. So parks are great. We have places for parks, but it'd be better to take control of our destiny, do a plan development, so we know, aside from the financial benefits, we know good planning and we know what's going to happen here.
I'll jump in also there, Dave. I think with especially this area, when you're talking about open spaces are very important in any city. But with this area, of course, being adjacent to Route 30 is a major thoroughfare. So that isn't necessarily the best use of that area. You have open space, you want to have it away from a road like Route 30. So, and to circle back a little bit on the kind of the transportation, the possible, someone asked a question about possible congestion. If you imagine back even just 2 years ago, we had a bottleneck on Eola Road in between Montgomery and Keating. And once we opened that up and widened it, really that bottleneck was gone immediately. And now I kind of brag a little bit that is the most accessible and really the best place to move back and forth in vehicles on Eola Road all the way up to I-88. So I believe when we widen the areas, the realignment area and the other areas, Wolf's Crossing, I think that same thing will happen with the widening of the roads. I think our traffic will flow much better, and I do not believe we will have those types of issues.
And Alderman Bug will Turn the last question to you. How do you suggest Ward 9 residents stay involved and have their voices heard in this process?
Well, definitely, we have a fantastic staff. They're always open to listening. Mr. Dick mentioned the email. Really, all questions, comments should go to that email. But they're very open to hearing what the residents have in mind, what they're thinking about. As I mentioned, we have a constant conversation with not only the school district, but with the park district. They're very important partners in any development area. So we're always listening to what they say and their input also. But we want to hear from the residents. We want to hear what you think, what, a lot of people talked about walking paths, bike paths, parks, all very important things. We want to hear your input so we can finalize the plan.
Wonderful, thank you. I mean, our last comment came from Stacy Kokoska-Felice, just thanking you all for all your hard work. I appreciate the presentation, being so open, so honest. Before we conclude, any final remarks for the good of the topic? All right, thanks, Mr. Sieben.
Take off mute. I just want to thank Tracy and Trevor. They've been outstanding as the lead on this. And, not only are Tracy and Trevor great planners and professionals, but as Tracy mentioned, they're also Ward 9 residents. So they have a particular, point of view here. So I just wanted to throw that out there. They're very representative of the kind of people we have here working for the city. So I want to thank them.
All right, thank you to the entire team for this amazing virtual open house for the Wilkes Crossing sub-area plan. To those who are viewing, as they've been stated throughout the last hour, you can also email questions to coaplanning@aurora-il.org. All of that information will be in the post description immediately following this presentation. Thanks, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.